What's up, you guys? UFC 292 is just this Saturday. We are finally going to get to see Sean O'Malley challenge for the world title against champion Aljamain Sterling and a lot of other hidden bangers on the card. On a quick side note, I want to thank everyone for their support on my last video. That one almost got like 2,000 views, so that is insane. Thank you guys so much for the support. And I do want to apologize, I haven't been uploading lately. I uploaded my UFC 291 prediction videos and that one got copyright literally twice, so that was so discouraging for me. But other than that, I've been really busy with work, but I'm gonna get back on the grind, upload these videos for you guys and give you guys my takes. And that all starts with this Saturday's UFC 292 in Boston. Man, this card has taken some massive hits, I'm not gonna lie to you. Originally when they announced this card, it was really looking stacked, but then little by little people were falling off the cards, fights were falling off, and now the final product, while it's still good, man, you just gotta wonder what could have been. Originally we were supposed to have Chito Vera versus Henry Cejudo, which was honestly supposed to be a really fun fight. I don't think no one's complaining that Henry Cejudo was on the card. He's a really fun fighter to watch, and Chito even more. We were also supposed to have the big rivalry that's been being built up between Jeff Neal and Ian Gary. And man, that would have been such a fun fight to watch. Ian has been literally putting Jeff Neal's mugshot on shirts and actually selling them, and just when stuff was looking like it was about to boil off, of course the fight gets canceled. So now we have Neil Magny actually stepping in, for Jeff Neal, and now he's going to be fighting Ian Gary. And then literally just a couple days ago, we find out that Cody Garbrandt, had to pull out of his fight against Mario Batista.
For the love of God! For the love of God! Please! Damn! Damn!
And man, that one really sucks because I was really looking forward to that fight. I consider Mario a high elite level bantamweight just outside of the rankings, so for me that would have really tested Cody to see where he's still at in the ladder.
What are you talking about?
When we look at the early prelims, there's a banger between Andre Petroski and GM3. That one I'm super excited for. I'm such a big fan of GM3. He's always proving people wrong. He's always fighting these up and coming, prospects, submitting them. I honestly don't know why they haven't given him at least an opportunity to fight, a ranked guy, especially, I don't know if it was his last fight, but one of his last fights, what he did to Bruno Silva, I thought was super impressive. So, we're going to see how this one plays out for sure.
Okay, if I double leg you, do I get a wrestling trophy or something?
Then, then we go to the prelims itself. You have the lightweight tough finale. Gregory Rodriguez is on the card, which, he's always going to bring it. And then we have the return of Chris Weidman. And that's where we're going to actually start the prediction video. So we're going to go right into Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares. You have to give massive respect to Chris Weidman for him, not only to be able to walk itself, be able to fight. I mean, you got to give him all the respect in the world. But, he's finally coming back and he's fighting Brad Tavares, which Brad Tavares is now on a 2-fight losing streak. The first one being to Dricus du Plessis, and then his last one being against, Bruno Silva, which I thought he was actually pretty competitive against Dricus du Plessis, but, in the Bruno Silva fight, not so much at all. Man, when I think of this fight, I just feel like all of us are going to be on the edge of our seats, cringing, if Tavares kicks him in the leg or in the shin at all, But for the main story of this fight, it's really how is Chris going to come back from such an injury? Will he be able to put so much weight on his legs, just to be even able to wrestle, which is the best thing that he does? Let alone, will he look gun shy to throw any kicks, to throw any punches? We don't know how he's going to react, coming off this injury. So, we can only really assume. On top of that, Chris is now 39 years old. He's definitely not a young guy, and to say the least, that injury did not help, his chances of getting to the title as quick as, he wanted to. those 2.5 years ago. And you know, while I do love, you know, a good story, I want to see Chris win, you know, that's honestly who I'm rooting for. I don't think, you know, that's what's gonna happen. You know, for my prediction, I'm gonna go ahead and say that Brad Tavares is gonna get it done. I don't think he's gonna finish Chris Weidman, but I think he's just gonna be a little bit ahead of Chris in all the exchanges. If they do hit the grappling, he'll be able to stuff the takedowns. You know, it's going to be competitive. You know, it's going to be a competitive fight for sure. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be a complete blowout, but I just think he's going to show his age in this fight. You know, he's going to be just a little bit, you know, of a step ahead, you know, to get, you know, the job done and go all 3 rounds. And, you know, I would say Brad Tavares gets it done by a unanimous decision. But like I said, I am rooting for Chris Weidman. I hope, you know, this fight goes good for him. And then, you know, on Sunday morning, we're talking about how good he looked.
And this is still my boy!
Okay, next up, we got Marlon Chito Vera versus Pedro Munoz. Now, like I said, originally it was supposed to be Chito versus Henry Cejudo, which, oh my God, everyone thought was a complete mismatch. Like, why would Chito take this fight? You know, it's a complete opposite style of what he's been fighting his last couple fights. And so now he's going to be fighting Pedro Munoz, which Pedro's actually coming off a very close win against, you know, a very high-level kickboxer in Chris Gutierrez. And man, to be honest with you, the way that he was able to deal with Chris Gutierrez, you know, even though, like I said, it was a very close fight, in my opinion, could have gone either way. You know, just seeing how he dealt, you know, with him on the feet, it gave me a lot of confidence in, you know, predicting this fight, you know, within itself. You know, I think that he'll actually do good against Chito. I think for sure, in my opinion, I think he's the better grappler. And I think punch for punch, I think he does pack the harder hit. But the thing is, for me, is that something that we tend to see in Pedro Munoz's fights is that he falls back a little bit. You know, he could be great. You know, when Pedro Munoz is on, he's really good, but he just tends to lose to these high-level fighters that find themselves within the top 5. And, you know, it's not to be disrespectful or anything, but I just think that, you know, he's not the most elite level fighter. Like, you're always going to see him around that top 10 level, you know, and him being able to be very competitive with the rest of these guys, you know, especially, you know, the top 5 guys, top 10 guys, 15, you know, he's going to be competitive with all of them. The thing is with me, when I do think about this fight, you know, my main thing is, well, how is he going to deal with the footwork of Chito Vera? Chito can be stationary sometimes when he does strike. You know, he tries to get a little bit too upright in like a Muay Thai stance, and then sometimes he'll switch it up, go to a karate stance, you know, side kick to the face. He'll sometimes go low leg kick, you know, high kick, you know, teeps to the body, you know. So you guys see the pattern. He throws a lot of kicks in his fights. And so I think that if Chito keeps his distance with the kicks, and then once Pedro blitzes in, you know, hits him with elbows and knees, kind of similar to the way Chito fought Davey Grant, I think he could have a lot of success in this fight. And ultimately, I do think that's how the fight is going to go. Like I said, I think this one's going to be, you know, highly competitive. I think maybe for the first round, you're going to see a little bit of a staring contest, a lot of feints between the two, fakes, you know. Maybe Pedro, you know, shoots for a takedown, you know, second round, third round, tries to use, you know, the fence to his advantage. But I don't know, man. I just think if I were to give someone the advantage just based off fight IQ, I would give it to Chito. But then again, like I said, Pedro tends to be very, very competitive with all these, you know, elite level fighters. And who knows, maybe he could squeak out a decision if he does decide to use his grappling, which I would give him an advantage in. But for my final prediction, I'm gonna go with Chito Vera, and I'm gonna say by a decision. You know, I don't think neither one of these guys are gonna end up finishing each other. You know, both of them have never been finished. You know, they could definitely take a shot. They're very durable, so I'll give him that. And you know, that's what my prediction for the fight.
Hey, how big is your dick? Tell me when to stop. Tell me. And he's like, you very funny, brother.
And then following the theme of short notice fights, we have Neil Magny versus Ian Gary. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, originally Gary was supposed to actually fight, you know, Jeff Neal, but you know, since he pulled out, now he's fighting Neil Magny. And I think it's more or less kind of the same style, man. For this fight, you know, you're gonna see more of a karate stance against a kickboxer, but you know, I think we all know, if you know MMA, Neil Magny is like the ultimate gatekeeper, you know, of the welterweight division. And his career hasn't been all that bad as people make it, you know, out, you know, to seem. I feel like personally he should be defined more by his, you know, losses than his actual wins. I mean, his losses, you're looking at, you know, Shavkat Rakhmonov, you're looking at Gilbert Burns, and then his wins, you know, he's getting Daniel Rodriguez out of there. He's beating Phil Rowe. You know, he's beating another contender in Max Griffin. You know, so he's showing that, like I said, you know, the ultimate gatekeeper. You know, if you're not at that level, you're not going to get past him. But unfortunately, I feel that in the striking department where Ian Gary, you know, absolutely shines, he is way better of a striker than Phil Rowe, then Max Griffin, then Daniel Rodriguez. You know, he is able to put his combinations very good together, you know, being able to get in and out of range, showing us kind of like that old vintage Conor McGregor, and being in such a wide karate stance. I guess really the only flaws that I could really tell you is that we haven't seen his grappling, number one. Number two, we do see that sometimes when he does decide to get cocky, he can be hit, and the times that he does, he's shown that he can get hurt. I remember his first fight, you know, in the UFC when he fought in MSG, you know, he wasn't doing so good in that first round, and then boom, he found the shot, you know, as he started to get into his rhythm. And ultimately, that's how I think this fight's gonna go. You know, if he finds his rhythm, he could 100% get Magny out of there. But if Magny, you know, sticks to being the veteran that he is, you know, tries to maybe use some of his grappling up against the fence, you know, because usually that's how he does it. You know, he holds the guy against the fence, try to get his arms tired, try to tire out his legs, you know, and then, you know, just disrupt that rhythm anytime he gets it going. He could absolutely get this fight done. When we look at Magny's finishing ability, it usually takes place, you know, with his submissions, not actually, you know, his striking. You know, I'd say, like, if you're gonna really, you know, look at his striking, it's more so like volume punches that'll get it done in the sense of a TKO instead of a flat out knockout, you know, as he doesn't, you know, carry that actual power, you know, to put someone out, which, you know, is not a bad thing. You know, not everyone's a power puncher. You know, my main thing is that if he uses, you know, and really pushes his cardio and tries to really use his volume in this fight, like I'm saying, as soon as Ian Gary steps, disrupt his movement, you know, I can see him having a lot of success. You know, I guess my issue is that he doesn't really do that in his fights anymore. In the Daniel Rodriguez fight, you know, he kind of just out-tired him. Like, he kind of just used his cardio and then, you know, capitalized on D-Rod's mistake. And, you know, even in the Phil Rowe fight, you know, kind of more or less the same thing. You know, it was competitive until, you know, Magny showed that technique for technique, you know, he's better, and then, you know, just use his veteran experience on him. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a majority of volume punches, or, you know, he really, you know, tested and put his cardio on him. You know, I don't think that fight went like that at all. And, you know, here's the thing, if Magny's struggling to do that, you know, with his last recent couple fights, I don't think he's gonna do that against a young, hungry prospect, you know, itching, you know, to get into that, you know, top 5 spot, you know, like Ian Gary. I just think that Ian's gonna pick his shots, you know, pick him apart. And shoot, I would say because of the short notice, I feel like Ian Gary is going to finish him in the first round. I just think he's going to do it in a very impressive fashion. You know, I think that everything, the way things are leading up, and when I imagine the fight, I feel like it's just going to be a straight right down the center. You know, he's going to put him down, and he's going to just finish him with some ground and pound. So my official prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Ian Gary, and I'm going to say by a first round TKO.
I want the guy who's been known as the gatekeeper for the top 10 for God knows how long. His name is Neil Magny.
Then we go into the co-main event, Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos, and my official prediction for this fight is Zhang Weili by whatever she wants. Weili has looked so good in her last couple fights. You know, she looks like a completely different champion than what she was before. You know, I feel like whatever method she tries to use, whether it's her stand-up or her grappling, you know, she knocked out one of the best, you know, strikers in women's history in Joanna Jędrzejczyk, you know, then submitted one of the best grapplers in women's history in Carla Esparza. I mean, I don't think there's anything that Amanda Lemos, you know, has for her other than her boxing, which I feel that in that area itself, I think that Zhang Weili will do very good. You know, if I'd give you a prediction of how the fight's going to play out, I think that first round, I think you're going to see, you know, just like a, you know, more competitive striking contest, you know, Zhang Weili using her leg kicks, faking, you know, using her kicks to the body that she sets up very nicely. And then, man, I just think like second round, she's just going to take her down and just maul her on the ground. You know, I could see her getting a submission, you know, just because I feel like in that area, she's just so far ahead. But, you know, like I said, for me, like seeing how easily she dealt with, you know, Carla Esparza and, you know, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, you know, I just don't think this fight's going to be competitive at all. And I think it's going to be a while before we see someone really give Zhang Weili a run for her money. On my final prediction, I'll go with Zhang Weili by a second round submission.
感觉他太帅了 handsome
And now we go into the main event, putting all the talk aside. Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. Man, this one is going to be a very exciting fight. You know, I'm super excited for this fight myself. Man, me personally, I am a huge fan of Aljamain Sterling. You know, call me whatever you want, call me a glazer, I don't care. You know, this man should absolutely be pound for pound, arguably number 1 or number 2 in the rankings. I mean, what he's been able to accomplish as a champion is insane. Petr Yan, former champion. TJ Dillashaw, former champion. Henry Cejudo, former 2-division world champion. You know, no other, you know, world champion can compete with that resume currently, I believe, you know. And I don't want to hear John Jones. I'm talking about currently. You know, I think only Volkanovski can really, you know, resume for resume as a world champion right now can compete with, you know, that level. And even still, you know, Volkanovski does not have a 2-division world champion, and the rest of his wins, you know, have not been over world champions other than Max Holloway. So call me whatever it is, I think Aljamain for me has to be pound for pound the number 1 fighter in the world. And now he's fighting Sean O'Malley, which in many people's eyes is the number 1 contender, not including, you know, if you think Merab Dvalishvili is the number 1. I could 100% how you think Merab is number 1. Even if you say Corey Sandhagen, I could also see how you consider Corey Sandhagen number 1. You know, ultimately, after that New Jersey card earlier this year, you know, we saw the direction the UFC wanted to go in. They wanted Sean O'Malley to fight for the belt. You know, Sean, obviously a very marketable person. You know, he's hanging out with the Nelk boys. You know, he's got the social media presence. You know, why wouldn't they want him as a world champion? And so, you know, now we're here Saturday. It finally takes place. And, you know, I'm going to start off with how I don't think the fight is going to play out. So, you know, here's the thing. The level of casuals that just love Sean O'Malley is crazy. And the number of people that are going to watch this pay-per-view because of Sean O'Malley, you know, and that believing that he's just going to starch Aljamain is wild to me. I can tell you right now, this fight is not going to be a Sean versus Petr Yan, you know, Abu Dhabi war, you know, striking classic fight of the years. It's not going to be one of those fights. For this one in particular, because of the style and because of how this one is being built up, I think you're going to see this as a Conor McGregor level moment against the one where he fought Chad Mendes, you know, for the interim belt, where he was taken down time after time after time again until he finally stuffed the takedown, you know, picked his shots and finished off Chad Mendes. That is literally the only way you are going to see Sean O'Malley win. And so the reason I say this is because Aljamain is, you know, at such a high championship level. You know, imagine preparing for Petr Yan twice, you know, preparing for such a dynamic striker in TJ Dillashaw, even Corey Sandhagen, even, you know, Henry Cejudo. He has been preparing for that long style of striking for such a long time now. You know, maybe, you know, not that, you know, long of a striker, just because Sean is like the biggest, you know, tallest and, you know, longest guy that, you know, Aljo has fought yet, but more so the technique, you know, how to get through that, you know, get to him, to be able to hold him, you know, put him down and submit him. You know, Aljo's been doing that for a while now. And, you know, where we do have to give Sean a lot of credit in is his BJJ, you know, his ability to roll, you know, to be able to actually scramble out of certain positions. I mean, Like, you got to give the guy credit because he has been working on it for a while now. He has been at these, you know, BJJ competitions working on it. He knows that that is something that he needs to lock down if he wants to become a world champion. And he's been at it for like a while now, like I said. And is it a level like Aljamain Sterling's grappling? No. You know, I personally don't believe that MMA math works, but I will say that this equation does work. You know, has Sean O'Malley fought a grappler on the level of Funkmaster? No. Has Funkmaster fought, you know, a striker on the level of Sean O'Malley? Yes. Yes, he has. And the thing is, you know, while Petr Yan has godly takedown defense, you know, his actual offense, you know, we never see him use it in a fight. And if he's able to take Sean down, you know, every time that he shoots, man, just imagine what Aljamain, the bigger, you know, bantamweight, you know, the more heavier guy, imagine what's he gonna do when he actually gets his hands on Sean. He's going to drown him. And like you guys say constantly, you know, that backpack style is boring to watch. Well, that is exactly what's going to happen. He is going to get on his back, you know, tie up that body triangle, and he is going to sit there comfy, you know. If he's feeling risky, he might even flatten Sean out and start punching him, you know, from the back, even maybe looking, you know, for a rear naked choke. Sean will not be able to deal with the grappling of Aljo unless he keeps his distance. And that is the main thing that I want to point out. You know, we see Aljo, you know, tends to close the distance as soon as you leave the circle from, you know, the octagon, you know, going towards the fence. Once you leave that circle, we see Aljo tend to shoot a lot of times, you know. And if Sean can keep his distance, you know, look for teeps, you know, even when, you know, Aljo changes levels to come in, even throw up a knee in between, you know, that could even work for him in his favor. You know, we've actually seen Aljo been knocked out by a knee before by Marlon Moraes. And, you know, if Sean can land that knee, he could absolutely, you know, ruin Aljamain's night. But, dude, if freaking Sterling is being able to wrestle and be competitive and even having, you know, an advantage over Henry Cejudo, an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, I mean, dude, there is absolutely nothing Sean has for him in that department.
I'm coming on your ass, boy. I'm coming for that ass. Pause.
And so, like I said, I could see this fight playing out in many different ways, but I think the most likely one is that round one, you're going to see Sean immediately throwing tips. You're going to see him throwing teeps to the body, you know, trying to establish that distance, you know, faking switches stances, you know, looking for high kicks. And then you're going to see Aljo slowly take over the distance, you know, boom, shoot, you know. And, you know, not even shoot to take him down, but shoot to just be able to get a hold of him, you know, be able to, you know, wear him down, you know, and then finally look for the takedown, you know, and, you know, transition to, you know, the more dominant position. And then I feel like second round, he's going to go ahead and do the exact same thing, but this time with more success. We're going to see a little bit of ground and pound. You know how the Funk Master works. Third round, same thing, but Sean could have maybe a little bit of success if he starts faking. And I think, boom, right there, we're going to see the final takedown. Sterling's going to, you know, just out-muscle him, out-man him, and, you know, look for a rear naked choke. So for my official prediction, I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling, and I'm going to go by a third round submission. Like I said, man, it's definitely going to be a really interesting fight to watch. I'm personally super excited, you know, for this weekend's UFC 292.
I'm a horny motherfucker.
Please drop a like, comment down below. Let me know what you guys, you know, want to see next from the channel. And, you know, keep me updated. Love you guys. Later.